Part 3. Even in kinship-based societies, there are differences in how kinship relations are organized and how society is regarded and one's identity is shaped. Like the Bedouin example, one might have a very clear view about the boundaries of one's tribe or community based on paternal descent and resources. Or one might have a less defined sense of boundaries and instead focus on the exchanges that might be made with other tribes or communities nearby. These issues are explored through the two main theories of kinship in anthropology, descent and alliance. A classic example of descent theory in kinship is Evans Pritchard's book on the Nua, which we look at in ASS 329. Here, following patrilineal descent, the Nua are comprised of tribes, and these tribes are split into segments. And these segments are split into even smaller segments until we reach a tertiary tribal section of a number of village communities that are composed of kinship and domestic groups. Now, we're dealing with large numbers here. Evans Pritchard estimated that in the 1930s, the Nua tribes numbered in excess of 250,000 people. Through his important work, we learn that the Nua are an ideal and idealized example of a segmentary lineage system. Marshall Salins, a prominent American anthropologist, has suggested that the segmentary lineage system of the Nua and Tiv supports a predatory way of life comprised of feuds with other groups and raids for both cattle and people in order to, quote, intrude and compete in an otherwise already occupied ecological niche, close quote. Now, isn't that pretty amazing? Anthropological analysis works through the minute details of specific kinship relations to build up theories about kinship and social organization, as well as interactions with others. In the second main theory of kinship, namely alliance theory, the primary way of reckoning relationships is through marriage exchange and reciprocity. Alliance theory was first proposed by Claude Lévi-Strauss in his book The Elementary Structures of Kinship. In alliance theory, relations of marriage, that is, of affinity, rather than of blood, that is, of consanguinity, are primary. The most basic and irreducible unit of kinship in alliance theory is that of affinal relations. In sum, in descent theory, a set of parents and children is the core of kinship relations. But for Lévi-Strauss, in alliance theory, the core would be the husband and wife, their son, and the wife's brother. The importance of the wife's brother signified the importance of marriage as a relation of exchange between persons rather than as a mechanism of reproduction. For Lévi-Strauss, the significance of kinship is about alliance between groups and is based on reciprocity, namely the act of recognizing the other, either through positive recognition, such as gifts, alliance, trade, or negative recognition, such as war, raids, abduction. Part 4. We might find it more useful sometimes to focus on descent and other times on alliance, depending on the situation we're trying to understand. But either way, we've seen that kinship is about more than family trees or whom to invite over for the holidays. The study of kinship is also the study of how alliances are made and broken, how power is exercised through relationship, and how societies circulate resources, be they money, gifts, cows, or even people. And it's not just tribal societies that we can understand this way. Anthropologists have applied the principles of kinship to make sense of a range of issues. Some have suggested, for example, that the exchange of favours and bribes among corrupt political figures could be thought of as a sort of alliance-based gift economy. And John L. Jackson has suggested that American racial formations could be thought of as a kind of kinship too. We could even imagine Levi-Strauss's ideas of negative recognition and positive recognition in relation to interracial conflict and intraracial economic benefits, from family inheritance and marrying in to preferential treatment by banks and credit companies. Indeed, George Lipsitz has shown that racial concentration and appropriation of wealth has historically formed a fundamental part of American economic development and class structure that he calls a, quote, possessive investment in whiteness, unquote. These examples merely scratch the surface of the ways in which models of kinship might be applied. Hopefully they, and some of the terms and tools you've learned here, will inspire you to begin thinking about alliance, descent, and the distribution of resources as you pay attention to the world around you.